How's it going, guys? This is Real Murata photographer based in Tokyo. So the sun is shining finally, and I had some time to shoot with the Konica C35 35mm film camera that I've been waiting to shoot this so long. It's been raining for the past 2 weeks or so in Tokyo, and I was thinking of giving up in life, but I'm glad I didn't. So you probably have seen the camera, which I basically talked about the overview in my previous video. This time around I went out to shoot with this camera, and I went around the Setagaya's tram train, local train, which basically spans across from Shimotakaido station to Sangenchaya station. There's like 10 stations and it's only 5 kilometers between those two areas. And how should I say it? Setagaya area is actually where lots of rich, wealthy people live, and it's probably one of the best locations to live if you're a really wealthy person. And fortunately enough, what's interesting about this line in particular is that the people who actually run businesses along this line are, if I'm right, the majority of them are probably going through their second or maybe third life, I guess. So they're basically people who have their own local businesses. It could be like a coffee shop, it could be an accessory shop, it could be like a barber, it could be whatever, you name it. And these people are really interesting because they don't look after profit. You know, when you go to a shop and the person's trying to sell you something, it's not like that. It's like a generally local shop that's basically located near the station, and I thought it would be a nice time to basically shoot around this sort of like area. And obviously I wasn't able to like shoot every single station. That's gonna take me forever, so I just picked out 2 that I wanted to shoot. One is Yamashita station, and this is actually where the Setagaya Hachimangu shrine is located. I've never been there. And also another famous one is the Gotoku shrine, which is located in an area where PewDiePie basically talked about. It's basically where a lot of these cat-shaped dolls are being enshrined in, and so many YouTubers have made so many videos on this. I thought I would never go there, but instead go to a different shrine instead. So, and after that I basically went to a shrine called Shioin Shrine, which is actually named after a famous educated scholar named Yoshida Shioin, and who basically helped during the Meiji restoration of Japan, shifting from the Edo period, samurai period, to sort of like a Western like era in Japan's history. And the people enshrine him for the goddess of study. So first note, while I was shooting with this camera, the camera strap broke down on me, and it was a kick in the butt. And how should I say it? I should have used the Peak Designs anchor link, because those are much more durable instead of using a cheap knockoff. Don't do that. And I basically learned from my lesson on that. And because of that, I basically dropped my camera, and there's a dent on the bottom, which kind of, oh crap kind of mode is going on. So yeah, here we go actually. Shooting around the Setagaya line, local tram actually. And as always, I'll be shooting with a C35 from Konica Fujicolor 100. So let's get going. Okay, so after shooting, there were a couple of things I realized after like shooting with the Konica C35. One of the things is that I've said in my previous video that this camera is a program auto, meaning that the aperture, shutter speed, the camera decides automatically within its like camera light meter already installed into this like body. And I was like surprised that this program auto did a really nice job reading the light and exposing properly. And as always in my previous I said that you can basically change the ISO dial on this camera, so you can basically intentionally overexpose if you want. So the box speed is 100, but instead I shot all my shots on ISO 50, and it did a really nice job in sort of like overexposing and revealing the shadow areas, which film color negatives do best. And if you compare this with like a Kodak's M35 for Sprite that I made a video on, this specific Konica C35 in my case shot better photos than those other two that I just mentioned. And for the exact same price of like, I purchased mine for like $30-$40, I mean, it does a better job. It has a better lens, and it just works really nice. And you can tell from images I did not have to like post process that much after the scan. I basically needed to like tinker around with the colors a little bit, and the exposure was on par actually. So other things I needed to mention in this video that I wasn't able to like talk in my previous video was the focusing. Is if you have like very fat fingers, fat hand, you might have trouble like focusing with this tiny camera due to the fact that the focus ring is like less than 1 centimeter, so half an inch or so, and that's really thin, meaning that if you like mess up with your fingers, you might miss focus, and it's going to be my fault if I mess up. But I mean, it's not a great sort of like what you call focusing ring to focus with, and that's like one of the things I realized after shooting with this film camera. And other than that, the focusing, this might be my copy. I mean, I'm not sure about other people's copies, but my focusing ring makes some kind of grating noise. So that's a downsider after like shooting with this. I mean, you have to live with it. So I mean, it's not a pleasing sound to focus with, but I wish it was like much more smoother. But yeah, I have to survive with that. So. And because I use the GW690 as my main medium format camera, and I don't know where this is gonna fit in, but it's probably going to fit into one of those cameras where if I want to sort of like casually shoot outside, this is probably much better than bringing a Nikon F3 or in my case a point and shoot, because this is much more smaller than the point and shoot. But at the same time, the only thing I need to do is basically focus and take a shot, and bam, I'm done. And at the same time, it's like hard to find a camera probably within this type of size form factor, because it's like really tiny, and at the same time, because this lens itself is like a pancake type of lens, I mean, you can just throw this in your pocket and just walk around, just shoot with it and have a great time like shooting with it and have a blast with it. And it's also, like I said, it reminds me of the Rollei 35. I mean, a lot of people love that camera because of its small form factor and ease of use. Is there any other things I need to mention about? Oh, I actually forgot. My probably favorite photo in this shoot was probably this coffee shop that I found in the corner. It was just saluted against this sort of like block, and I actually managed to take 3 shots. But this one, the vertical orientation, is probably the best shot that I shot, probably maybe this year actually, on a 35mm format actually. And it's interesting because like when I shot with this camera, I'm this time around I mostly shot in vertical orientation instead of horizontal. And if there's any kind of reason why I shot in vertical orientation, I guess it has to do with the specific location, the Setagaya area. It's like really cramped out, so if and you guys, and I said in my previous video, this is a 38mm equivalent on a 35, well, it is a 35mm so film, It's a 38mm focal length, meaning that it's on the wider edge. So if I shoot horizontally, there's going to be some kind of distraction going on the left side and the right side of the frame, and in order to isolate my subject from the outer space, I shot mostly in vertical orientation, and that's why you saw like a lot of vertical orientation type of shots in my like video. And I guess it's like my way of like shooting. I don't like to have that much distractions going on outside the frame, so yeah. However, there was one shot that I wanted to mention on this channel that I really like in the horizontal orientation, which is the sort of like what you would call another, I don't know what shop this was, but it was like a coffee shop maybe. But what's interesting, I saw myself being in the reflection, squatting down like a little kid actually, and I had trouble shooting this shot in particular because of the glass reflection going on, and in order to like focus that, I was like skeptical, like where is that focus plane going on. So another great image that I shot during this day, and I just like the contrast between the outer side of the building and the inner side of the building, you know, and the shadow details. And you can basically see the desk being adjacent to the wall, which I really liked, while the sales clerk was patiently waiting for a customer to go into that shop. So it would have been nice if there was someone like walking into the shop, but unfortunately I was not able to get that shot, unfortunately. And because I was like sitting outside just waiting for that moment, people thought I was a pervert or something. I don't know. Yeah, you get my point. So, and all in all, I'm like happy to use this camera because it was sunny outside. And honestly, I mean, this is the complete opposite from the GW690 that I typically use, although this is the same type rangefinder type of camera. I mean, I'm glad I was able to get my hands on this camera because it's like really easy to use, not to the extent of a point and shoot, but because you're like focusing with your hand physically doing that, it takes a little bit of time to get used to. But if you shoot with this camera, you will probably eventually nail focus, and if you can nail focus, I mean that reward is really rewarding in the overall image that you create from this camera. So yeah, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, please leave it in the area below. I'm happy to reply. So yeah, we'll see you next time. Keep shooting, people.